Okay, what I want to do is show you a short row magic toe kind of thing. And what it is you can try this on a circular loom, but it stretches the stitches too much. It works best on this kind of loom to do this on. You'll need a paracord, because what technique we're going to be doing is what Smitten Kitten's Janae Gagi does. And it's really not that bad to do. And you can do a regular cast on, but you will have seaming that shows up. To do this method, you won't have anything that shows up, and it'll look like a Kitchener cast on, and you don't have waste yarn that you're going to have to contend with, and you're not going to have a lot of that pulling through that you're going to have to contend with either. Okay, so what you want to do is we're going to work half the loom, of course. So here's how we want to do it. I'm going to hold my working yarn, and what I'm going to do is take the working yarn behind the paracord and in front. Then, okay, so I'm taking the working yarn behind the paracord and then in front of the peg. Then I'm going to take the paracord and pull it through, okay, and then send the yarn in front of the peg. And then you want to keep this consistent, so send it under the paracord and then over the paracord and around the peg. Under the paracord, over the paracord, and around the peg. You want to do this for half the loom, okay, so that it's consistent. You want it consistent, all right? So take the working yarn under the paracord, over the paracord, and around the peg. Under the paracord, over the paracord, and around the peg. Okay? So take it under the paracord, over the paracord, and around. Keep this consistency, alright? Because you don't want your tension messed up here, okay? And you don't want to have it doing something unusual on you when you go to add these stitches to the other half of the loom once you get your short rows done, okay? And I do a few, and then I pull my paracord through. And I have probably about a 14-inch thing of paracord that I'm using right now, and I find that that is plenty for a project like this. So I've almost got half my stitches on, okay? And I find that this toe up kind of cast on is going to actually save you a lot more time than anything that I have figured in probably quite some time. Alright, we're going around our edge, so here is that. And I'm going to send it over and that way one more time, so that when I go to start working back, I have that stitch there. Alright, so I've got it halfway. Now I'm going to shove that in the middle, and I'm going to work me a short row toe like I normally would. So I work myself down to either 7 or 6 pegs in between my wraps and turns. So I'll kind of show you and get started on how I'm doing this. So I'm going to knit that over and knit my way over. Okay. And basically going to treat this like I have done a cast on. So basically you've done a what I call paracord cast on here. Alright, and as I said, you can try doing this on a round loom. I think you're going to find it's going to be too much of a stretch on these stitches to try to do it on a round loom. Okay? But this should give you a seamless quality. It really should. Alright. Now, I'm going to go in and I'm going to slip that first stitch and work my way back. Okay, this gets you started. So knit your way in and then you're going to slip that first stitch and work your way back. Alright, now we're going to work till just before the last peg on the end, and we'll wrap and turn. And so at this point what you're wanting to do is go to, like you normally do, a short row toe. Okay, and do whatever technique that you like best. If you like a German short row, go for it. I have a video that shows the variety of techniques that you can use to do a short row toe or heel. So I'm going to wrap and turn that last stitch, and then I'm going to work my way over to just before the last stitch on the other side. Okay, so this is my short rowing, and if you've done short rowing before, this is just standard stuff here. Now I know a lot of people tend to do the half a loom differently on these, but I like to just divide it in half long ways, so that I'm not having to do a lot of messing with turning it so much when I'm doing my short rows. Okay, so there I am at just before the last one, and I'm going to wrap and turn it, and I'm only going to show you a couple of wraps and turns because what I'm doing is explaining this as a technique. So I've wrapped and turned, and I'm going to knit my way back over to just before the last wrap and turn, and then I'm going to wrap and turn and work my way back to just before the last wrap and turn, and then you're going to do the increase out just like you normally would. Okay, so once I tell you to pause the video, I'm expecting you to go in and do a complete short row. Alright, so I'm wrapping and turning and knitting to just before the last wrap and turn, and then wrapping and turning. And I'm going to work this down to, I believe 7. I'm going to work it down to 7, so I should have 6 wraps and turns on both sides. Then I'm going to increase it out like I normally would. Alright, so if you need an example of a short row heel, then you'll need to go and find that. But at this point, I'm just showing you how to do this attachment because that's the cool part of this, okay? So there's just before my last wrap and turn. I'm going to wrap and turn. So what you want to do is pause the video, get your short row toe, decrease down and increase out. And yes, you are going to knit these and then slip back and knit this and slip back on the end ones, okay? And I actually may show you that when I go to increase out. But go ahead and pause the video and get your decrease down and your increase back out, and then I will show you this nifty little trick that does take near the time to do the Kitchener. I'm going to kind of call it the I've tried finding a name for it because there's people who've done it, but you can do it with an E-wrap on the round looms is what I found. So you can do it with an E-wrap on the round looms. You just can't do it with a flat knit. Okay. But what I've seen it called is a toe cup. But I think this is more going to be like a short row toe, magic short row toe is what I'd call it, a magic short row toe, because you've done this weave and you're just going to attach it to the other side. Okay, but for now, go in and get your short row done, down to decrease and increased out, and then I'll show you the rest of it and how that looks afterwards. Okay, I have done my short rowing, as you can see, and I'm now ready to add my stitches back to the other side. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my paracord out of that first stitch, and I'm going to make sure it's not twisted. I'm going to place it on the loom. Okay, and then I'm going to pull that paracord out of the next stitch, make sure it's not twisted, and place it onto the loom. And you can stick the hook through as you pull it through, but you should be able to practically do it with your fingers. And you're making sure that the stitch is not twisted when you place it onto the loom. Okay. If you don't feel as comfortable with it, you can stick your hook up in there and pull the paracord out. So you can pull it through and then pull this onto the peg. And what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to do that all the way around over to here until you have no more stitches on the paracord. And you could also go in and add the stitch and then pull the paracord through. But basically what you're doing is taking the paracord out as you go along and adding the stitch back. So, and making sure that the stitch is not twisted in any way. Now again, this may seem tedious, but this would be your fastest process for any toe up when you compare to the Kitchener cast on and the waist yarn, where you do a waist yarn to do this. And now I'm going to tell you again, if you E-wrap, you can do it on a round loom. But the only way to do this simple process with a Kitchener kind of looking cast on is through a long loom like this. You could probably do it with one of the KB looms. So go ahead and pause the video and get all your stitches onto the loom, and then we'll go from there. Okay, now what you may find is when you reach the end to where these last two stitches are, you may need to loosen up these stitches here in order to add the last two. So what you can do is go back the direction that you came from over here and start working the direction that you would intend, which for me would be counterclockwise. That's how I typically work it. So I'm going to work it around, and what this will do is go in and release this last wrap and turn that you see that's over here. And when you release this last wrap and turn, you naturally loosen up the stitches to be able to add them to the loom. You always got to love that wedge area. Okay, so that loosens that up on those last 2 stitches. And what you can do is put that stitch on that peg, because this stitch is the one that goes right here, and then this stitch, which is your last one, and pull it through. It's the one that goes here, and there we go. Okay, that actually goes in and properly completes the cast on. So then you'll just knit that and knit all the way around. So you go in and you'll knit all the way around at this point. And then you are back here at the beginning. Be careful with that last stitch you add, because it's where your tail is. Alright? So at this point, you would start to work your sock as normal. You're starting the bulk of your foot, so you would just work it as you normally would. And that is how you do your magic short row toe. So, and you'll see the image of what it looks like when it's done, and so that is how you do that.